would like to welcome everybody to the National Flute Association Adult Amateur Competition. This is the 2022 edition, and I am Christina Condon, and I am the coordinator for this event, and I'm joining you from St. Petersburg, Florida, backstage of a concert that I just performed on, but the orchestra's still playing. So if you hear some music when I'm talking, that's what that is. I'd also like to introduce Mily Harrod. She's in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she's the membership manager for the NFA, and she's hosting this, and she's doing a lot of behind the scenes things to keep us rolling here. Aiden Hensley also did our video. And then, of course, our most important guests of honor, we have Gutowski, who's joining us from New York State, and Rebecca Sayles, who is joining us from New Hampshire. Congratulations, you guys, and welcome. We're so excited for you, and I'm excited to share your video with everybody here. And if it's okay, I'd just like to start with the video, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
That's good.
So we are going to hear them perform. Carl will be performing Suite for Flute and Piano by Jonathan Russell, and Rebecca is going to be playing To Greet the Sun by Katherine Hoover. Oh, great. I'm glad that they're plugging their. If you want to participate in the competition, the deadline is March 7th this year. Those are just like truly inspiring performances. And I'm so glad we all got to hear that today. And the pieces they played for you today are actually not the ones that were for the competition. So since the deadline is March 7th, I should mention it now that if you are thinking about participating, you still have some time to get in your recordings. If you go to the nfaonline.org and it's go to the convention and then competitions, and the music list is right there to play. So for Carl and Rebecca, the first round, they recorded different pieces that were on the list, and honestly, I can't remember what those pieces were. Carl and Rebecca, do you remember what the first round pieces were?
One of them was Katherine, the piece that I played was a choice.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but that was an optional one. So I didn't play that. I played the other piece by Barak Badil, an Israeli.
Oh, yeah.
But the required piece was the Poulenc Sonata. Maybe just the first movement.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah. So for this competition, the first round, what was one round, there are two pieces that you play, one piece that all the competitors play, and the second piece is chosen from a short list. And so people get to choose their second piece. So now I want to talk to Carl and Rebecca about the pieces they chose for us today. Rebecca, tell us about why you chose to perform To Greet the Sun, and if you've performed it anywhere else or any other experiences you've had with it.
Sure. Was on the choice on the list for the competition last year, and I chose to play it because I like playing music we had to play music of our time, but I felt a bit of a connection with Katherine Hoover. She was an American composer born in 1937. She died in 2018, and I had the opportunity to play another of her pieces for flute and string trio, flute, violin, viola, and cello, in 2011 at the Chamber Music Conference and Composers Forum of the East, where I was a participant in their summer chamber music workshop. And so I was coached on that piece, and she was alive at the time. And I believe we actually reached out to her with a question, and she was responsive and kind of helped us interpret something in the music. So whenever possible, I do like to play pieces where I can actually speak with the composer. I did not know this piece, so I learned it for the competition, and it is an homage to the earth, to the power of the earth and the sun, and celebrating how different cultures, rituals, and ceremonies really lend gratitude to life on earth. So I live in a beautiful place where I see beautiful sunsets, and while I am not an early riser to greet the sun in the mornings, I had as an image while I played this piece the beautiful sunset. And I also was imagining waterfalls and kind of conjuring up my own imagery of the earth and its beauty. So also Katherine Hoover has a connection to Philadelphia, where I am from as well, and spent a good part of her youth there, and did study flute with William Kincaid, as did my primary flute teacher in my formative years. So I felt that connection to her as well, and as I learned more about her and her music.
That's great to have such a good connection with the music. And you said you got to be in touch with Katherine Hoover when you did that chamber music competition. Did you actually get to meet her too?
No, did not meet her. It was more of an email exchange while I was workshopping her divertimento.
What a great experience. Cool. That's excellent. And Carl, tell us a little bit about your piece, The Suite for Flute and Piano by Jonathan Russell.
Yeah, that's actually a piece that I commissioned. So if no one knows it, that's why. And I commissioned it as a gift for a friend of mine, Laura Russell, who was retiring as the music director at Christ Episcopal Church in Poughkeepsie, New York. And she had given me a lot of opportunities to perform. She has a chamber music series that I've played on. And as she was retiring, I thought, as a gift, I would give her a musical gift, a piece of music. And the composer is, in fact, her son, Jonathan Russell. And he's a very accomplished composer and also an outstanding clarinetist, bass clarinet. Writes a lot of clarinet music, but a lot of other music as well. So I just kind of secretly contacted John and said, would you like to write a piece? And he, of course, said yes. So I think it was a challenge for him to keep it a secret from his mom the whole time. But eventually we were able to perform it. And the 3 movements were intended to be, you could perform them as I did as a concert piece or within a church service, the prelude, the postlude, and some kind of meditation in the middle. And so we presented that to her. And of course, it was very meaningful to Jonathan as well. So each movement ties to parts of Laura's life. And so we presented that last May, and I thought it would be an appropriate place, here to showcase it. My hope is that other flutists will find it and perform it. It's a very accessible piece, I think, for the flutists and also for the listeners. I think there's a lot, it's easy to grasp as a listener. And although some parts are challenging as a flutist, you just have to work through them. It's not an impossible piece by any means.
And where can we find this piece to perform it, to purchase it?
Well, John Russell has a website. I should have looked it up. But if you just search for John, Jon Russell, composer, you'll find his website and it's on there, and you can purchase it directly from the composer.
Excellent, because that's actually one of my questions is where can we find this? I loved listening to it and hearing you play it, and both of you, your performances were just next level playing, and the word amateur comes from the word that means love, and so that means like you do it because you love it. And so I'm going to ask a question for both of you. What experiences early in your music and playing flute or another instrument helped you to love it for such a long time? You've played it past high school and you're still playing it in your adult lives.
Well, for me, I actually took 25 years off, and I kept the interest going by attending concerts and things. But really, there was a spark in high school when I went to a summer camp and met other students that were so passionate and worked so hard. And I was fortunate to have some great flute teachers. So I just kept that love of music all this time. And maybe 6 or 7 years ago, came back to playing again, and just now they can't shut me up.
Yeah, similarly, well, I grew up in a city like Carl with one of the greatest orchestras in the world. Carl, I think you grew up in Cleveland. I was in Philadelphia. So
well, actually, in fact, I was in New York, but I studied in Cleveland. Yeah.
In Cleveland, so you know kind of the influence of a city and being surrounded by wonderful music and musicians and teachers who were just always there and inspiring. I started playing chamber music very young, and came to band and orchestra playing much later in my life, in my adult life. So kind of started out playing solo recitals and chamber music, and very early on just had a love of chamber music and never stopped playing. And summers were a very good opportunity to play with others and attend workshops such as the one I described earlier. And as an adult to have those opportunities as inspiration and goals to work toward.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I attended that same conference last summer, and it was my reintroduction to chamber music. I hadn't played in the woodwind quintet since high school. And so I went to, it's now at Colgate University. It was at Bennington College for many years, but they've moved to Colgate. And it was just 7 days of intense music playing, and it was just a fabulous experience. I'm hoping to go back this summer as well. But I think chamber music is just a wonderful way to meet with other people at a very intimate level, and just a fabulous experience.
So did you both play in school when you were in like grade school and high school?
Well, I started on piano when I was 8, And after a very short time, my piano teacher suggested that I learn an instrument with just one clef. uh, so at that time, I went to a very small Quaker school in the center of Philadelphia, 600 students, kindergarten through 12th grade total. I attended kindergarten through 12th grade, and there really was a chorus, but no instrumental program. But when I was in 4th grade, they brought in a flute and a clarinet teacher, and I gravitated to the flute. And that program lasted about 1 year of lessons. But I continued with my teacher, David Bard, for 5 years. And then he handed me off to Deborah Carter Smith, who was, as I had mentioned earlier, she studied with William Kincaid. She was his last student at Curtis in the 1960s. And William Kincaid, of course, or there's for the non-flutists on the call as well, was played in the Philadelphia Orchestra, principal flutist for over 30 years, and left quite a legacy of considered the grandfather of the American flute playing school. So I feel very much influenced by that. But I supplemented my private lessons, since there was no real program at my school, with ear training and woodwind quintet from the age of 9 at the Settlement Music School, a community music school in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I didn't have the luck to live in a city. I live in the Hudson Valley, where we do have a symphony orchestra, the Hudson Valley Philharmonic. And I started in the band program like every other kid, 5th grade. And but my parents were fortunately gave me private lessons from the beginning. So I was studying with the principal flutist of the Hudson Valley Philharmonic, Tacey Edwards, and she just gave me a fabulous foundation. And to this day, I use what she taught me with every breath, honestly. And we had a very strong music program in school. But honestly, I didn't really work very hard, and I just kind of skated along until the 10th grade, when I went to this summer program out in Cleveland and studied with members of the Cleveland Orchestra and studied the flute with William Hebert, the piccoloist. And he just brought me to another level. When I came back to New York after the summer, my Tacey asked me, what did he teach you? And I told her, and she said, well, I've been telling you that for years. So I guess I wasn't a very attentive student. And then senior year in high school, she moved away, and I started studying with John Solom, who is also a William Kincaid student. So I have that connection as well. He really is the grandfather of so many flutists in America. And John was just a fabulous teacher, and I just can't say enough great things about him. In fact, he was the treasurer of the NFA for several years and president of the New York Flute Club. And just a fabulous teacher. So I studied with him for 5 years. But then after college, I just I didn't have any performance opportunities. I was a math major. I went into a completely different field, and just didn't have those goals that you were talking about that to propel me to keep me going and practicing. So I can't say I quit playing the flute. I just stopped playing until a few years back when I restarted to play again.
Excellent. And you both mentioned chamber music as being something that you participated in that workshop. What current groups do you play in, or if any?
I just do ad hoc things. I get together with pianists, guitarists, violinists, singers. There's actually a group in New York City that I work with called ACMA, ACMA, and it's a fabulous organization. Once a month, they have concerts, and literally anyone can sign up and perform. And so through that, I got to meet a lot of other musicians, and so all amateurs, and we get together and perform once a month. And then once a year, they'll have a competition, and if you get selected, then they rent Wild Recital Hall, and you get to play at Carnegie Hall. So it's just a fabulous opportunity. But I don't play in an orchestra or anything like that. I wish, but sadly, I don't.
I do play in a community orchestra in Brattleboro, Vermont, the Wyndham Orchestra, and the also an opera orchestra, a Wagner in Vermont Summer Festival, and also the Valley Light Opera in Massachusetts. And when I moved to New Hampshire about 6 years ago, I also met a lot of fellow chamber musicians through the Keene Community Music Center. And my next gig is a play-in day a week from next Saturday. Again, where you sign up, and we were assigned pieces. I'll be playing Elgar for not really woodwind quintet, but it's woodwinds. I think it's 2 flutes and no horn. 2 flutes, oboe, clarinet, and bassoon, I believe. And we'll just be reading through these pieces together with other community members. And I moved here from the Hudson Valley, where I was for many years in Westchester County, New York, where I also played in a community orchestra. Some of those members might actually be on this call.
That's great that you guys have both found opportunities for playing, because I know I've had adult students in the past, and they're always looking for places to play. So it's wonderful. There's so many near you. And somebody asks here in the chat, did I understand that correctly? The Wagner in Vermont Festival? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
In Vermont, we're doing Die Walküre this summer. We did it last summer as well, and they hope to add opera each summer in Brattleboro.
Excellent. And where was that again?
In Brattleboro, Vermont.
Excellent. I have another question here. Oh yeah, so you mentioned goals earlier. I think Carl, that was you. You mentioned you didn't have any goals, but now you do. So what kind of goals do you guys have musically, or is there a piece of music you're looking to be able to perform, or what are your goals right now?
Well, what got me back to playing was actually an open mic, and I was just driving down the road and I saw a sign that said open mic classical, and I just couldn't believe it. So, and they provide a pianist. When I saw that, I said, okay, let me practice, see if I can do it. And it got me back to playing. And so I just keep setting dates ahead. Another recital, I've got a couple of recitals in April in Westchester. And then I recorded something last year, another piece that I commissioned by composer Deborah Kay. And so we recorded that, and that's going to come out in May. And so I'm excited about that. And perhaps I'll record Jonathan's piece as well. So I just keep trying to schedule one season after another, and hopefully I can get more chamber ensembles. I'd like to play with more string players and something a little bit more formal and regular rather than just ad hoc things. So,
Yeah, and I'm trying to play more with my ears than my eyes. So I'm branching out into trying to learn jazz flute and klezmer flute, and a little more with Baroque ornamentation and general improvisation. That's my...
Wow.
That's cool. I mean, there's so many angles of things that we can learn. And those are I think you've covered half of them right there between the two of you. So now neither of you have had careers in music, but so how does music fit in with your career? Rebecca, you said you continued playing after high school and family life. And then Carl, for you, that would be, how does it fit in with what you're doing now?
It's always been actually a big part of my career as well. I think having attended a very small school, K through 12, if I ever wanted to play there, I had to do my own publicity. So I kind of had to do up some flyers and tell people about the concert. And same with college, actually. I was the general manager of the chamber orchestra and had to solicit ads for the programs and do all the administrative stuff. So I actually ended up going into arts administration. And my first job was at Young Concert Artists, promoting the careers of emerging young talented artists. And I've really always worked for organizations that promote and support emerging musicians and composers. I worked for many years as director of development at Copeland House, which is Aaron Copland's former home in Cortlandt Manor, New York, which promotes the careers of emerging composers. And I've done a lot of work now as a consultant, but have also worked at community music schools. And again, just promoting whatever niche people care to occupy in this wonderful world of music, and ensuring that there are possibilities and opportunities to do that. And mostly I've been raising money for these organizations to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real balancing act, and it takes great time management. And thankfully, my wife is very supportive. When we first got married, music was not a part of any of this, so this is a big change. In addition to playing and holding a full-time job, I also manage a chamber music series called the Howland Chamber Music Circle in Beacon, New York, and presenting other musicians that we bring into Beacon, doing 12 concerts a year, children's concerts, pop-up concerts. And that's really been very helpful to me to learn, how to put on a concert and how to, publicize it, how to raise money and things like that. And it's benefited me personally, so that when I go out to create my concert, I know what to do and who to contact. But I'm also very fortunate that my job, I'm a software developer, it's very flexible. And so if I'm not working from 9 to 5 and I have to work in the evening because I had a rehearsal during the day, that's fine. I get the work done, and that allows me to juggle all these balls at the same time. Because if I were, and honestly, being in front of a computer all day is beneficial as well. I can send off emails back and forth very quickly, and then I can go practice at lunchtime. So it does take a lot of juggling, but we make it happen.
That's great. And your involvement in the arts is just, amateurs are the biggest supporters of the arts. You've done publicizing for the arts and going to concerts and everything. And I can't emphasize how grateful I am for people like you to just be so supportive of everything that we're doing and even participating in this, because, you're the biggest supporters we have, and you play incredibly. I'm still just blown away by your performances today. And so what is your process for learning a piece of music like you did for this competition? The music wasn't easy. How do you go about that?
It was during COVID lockdown, and somehow there was the time and the focus and the isolation to have the luxury of that really deep dive into daily discipline with time and not having to go anywhere or be anywhere. My work continued, but somehow it really provided the goal, and I learned this piece line by line and adding a line at a time.
Just small bits at a time.
Small bits at a time.
That's great.
A lot of listening.
Yeah, I tend to just blast through a piece initially, and then I think, oh, that's terrible, I'll never be able to do this, and I get all discouraged. But as Rebecca said, you just go line by line, you work your way through it, and you find sections. You say, this section I'm going to master today, and I just keep doing that. And then tomorrow I come back and suddenly it seems so easy, and you just work your way through it. And at some point, then you have to step back and really look at the piece at a bigger level and say, well, how does this really work? How do the parts fit together? and how do I tell a story through this music, and how do I move the audience through various sections. It's just wonderful coming back. There's been so much music that's been written since I stopped playing that I'm discovering the music of Katherine Hoover that I'd never played before, and other composers. So there's so much great music out there for me to explore. And now we have YouTube to help us find all of these pieces. It's been really exciting to learn all this new music.
So when you recorded for the competition, both of you already knew Poulenc on some level, is that correct?
No.
Oh, you hadn't played that before?
Wow.
No, my training really from very early on, and maybe it's this Kincaid method, was just such a focus on tone and long tones that I really somehow missed out on the repertoire, really the chunky repertoire in my youth.
Wow.
So I learned it for this. It's really the first I had ever had experience.
That's impressive that you learned both pieces then for the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my second question was going to be then the second piece that you both chose, the two second pieces. Neither of you knew those pieces before, right?
Right.
And there were recordings, of course, to listen to of those, although I think Bracha Badil's piece had fewer recordings.
Yeah, I think there's one very, somebody in a closet somewhere, it was very, not very good.
So since this competition was recorded, did you practice recording and listening back to your recordings before submitting?
Absolutely. And actually, I mentioned that organization in New York, ACMA. I actually performed it there. I had an opportunity to go down and get it to a level where I could perform it so that I knew when I recorded it, it would be, passable.
Recording is always something that I recommend to my students. So I was curious if you guys also did that in your preparation. So I don't have any other big questions, but I see here actually in the meeting chat, somebody asks, are you continuing to get coaching periodically from former teachers or other professionals?
Well, I went to this conference last summer for chamber music, as Rebecca's gone as well. But I haven't taken formal lessons. I took one lesson in passing, and I actually played in some master classes. During the pandemic, I was looking for opportunities, and there were some online master classes. But I think my days of going to lessons are over. I don't want to play another etude again. So, I just want to play for pleasure. Obviously, I'm working very hard, but I think there comes a point when you just have to go off and do it yourself. So the conference helped me work through chamber music, which I had never really worked on before. So for that, I did have coaching.
One of the coaches at the Bennington Chamber Music Conference on flute is Sue Ann Kahn, and another past president of NFA. And I had studied with her. She's also from Philadelphia, went to the same school I did in the city. And I had grown up going to her concerts and studied with her in my early adulthood in New York. And when I first started my career, my first job was in New York, and I studied with her. And then she was also my coach at Bennington. And I did have a lesson with her on, not the Hoover, but on the Poulenc, one lesson to play through with her. And I do, yes, I attend master classes whenever I can. Yesterday I was at the Western Massachusetts Flute Festival, Flute Day, and in the summers these workshops for coachings.
Did you have something else to say, Carl?
Well, I was just regarding master classes. The New York Flute Center of New York has a lot of master classes there, and so I heard Mark Sparks the other day, and there's just so many great flutists that go through there and have master classes. So I'll often stream those or watch them later on YouTube.
So if you could perform or play with any particular group or person, Who would you choose?
Well, I've never played in an orchestra since college days. And I just heard an interview the other day with Jeffrey Kainer of Philadelphia Orchestra saying, if you've never played in an orchestra, you've never played Mahler or Brahms or Shostakovich. And that's the case with me. So I would love to play in a really first-rate orchestra and play Brahms. I've never played Brahms or Beethoven. There's just these great composers who wrote great flute music in orchestral settings. So that's on my wish list.
That's a great wish. I think mine is more of the opportunity to be able to play jazz, for example, to be able to improvise without music in front of me, rather than play with a particular person, sort of conquer the challenge of playing again in a new setting, one that I'm not familiar with, and gaining some exposure and comfort level in a new setting.
Cool. Those both sound like excellent opportunities that I wish I could do as well. I had a student ask me about if I could teach him how to improvise on jazz, and I was like, I think I'm gonna have to send you somebody else for that, because I've never had that opportunity to learn. And so do you guys have anything else you would like to add about the competition or your music experience? I don't have any more questions.
Well, I guess getting back to what you were saying about goals, I found the competition, especially during the pandemic, it gave me something to work toward, and that kept me practicing. It kept me motivated. So, and again, what you were saying about being an amateur, you're doing it for the love of, that's the root of the word, and I really embrace that. I don't. Unfortunately, amateur often means inferior. People will use it that way, but I don't take it that way at all. And I really embrace being an amateur, and there's nothing to apologize about. So I found that the whole experience with the NFA competition to be very positive. I mean, obviously I won, or we won, so that helps. But I think there's something to be gained just by preparing the music and setting that goal and working hard.
I agree, and most wholeheartedly with your definition of amateur, as in for the love of it. In fact, my undergraduate degree is in sociology, and I studied sociology of the arts and people's involvement in the arts and orchestras and career patterns of musicians. And I still write about music making, and I wrote an article for the American Music Teacher magazine on this topic of amateur music playing in America and how it encompasses people like us who had music education in our youth, but who didn't pursue it professionally, and how we are, as Christina said, the audiences of today and the patrons, and it's all one big ecosystem. And I just encourage everyone to find a niche in it and challenges that help you grow, which certainly this competition did. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for participating, supporting, and for your beautiful playing. Amateurs are amazing players, and I hope that my students in 20, 30, 40, 50 years will also be able to participate in things like this, because I just think that we can play music for our whole lives. It's not just for when we're in school. It's something we can do forever. We can enjoy listening to it. We can enjoy improving. We can enjoy making goals. And I think having a competition is a wonderful opportunity to have a goal with a timeline. Learning something new that maybe you wouldn't do as quickly, or you wouldn't even have chosen the music or known the music. So I'm just so glad that you two were here to do this. And I'm also grateful for all of our other competitors that we didn't meet today, but you are all just an important part of the National Flute Association and this competition. I don't have any more questions for you guys, and I think that we're actually about out of time. But if anybody else has any other questions, if you want to type it in the meeting chat, I can ask them real quick. But otherwise, I think that's about all for today.
Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, well, another round of applause for Rebecca and Carl. And thank you, Christina, for hosting and emceeing this event. This will be is being recorded, and it will be up on our YouTube and our website in a few days. So if you want to, send it to your friends. So, and we do have plenty of other virtual events in the spring. If you want to look at our calendar, we would love to have you.